So Thermopro has released a brand new wireless thermometer, and this is their second one in the same year. But this one has some major changes, and of course, I'm going to review it. Let's dive in. So you guys have probably already seen my past review on the Twin TempSpike. If you haven't already, check that out. But I tend to like to look at the whole picture when reviewing wireless thermometers. For me, there's different categories that are important, and some are more important than others, and I recognize that. So I try to do an unboxing, I'll try to do an actual cook and show how it's being used in practical terms. And then I always like to do a range test to figure out how reliable, how dependable is the wireless connection. So I've actually done a lot of wireless thermometer reviews, and I recently did one comparing Thermopro versus the Meat Stick versus Combustion Inc. versus Meter, and I ranked all of them. And that was a very detailed review. Again, if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link here for you to go check it out. And actually, the Twin TempSpike came in third place, and I just found it to be dependable, reliable. It just worked. And there was something about that that just kind of was refreshing. Now, it's not a perfect system. The app is okay, and there's other things, but primarily it was the size. The probes, I think, are the largest diameter probes out of all the models that I tested. And then the minimum distance that you have to insert the probe, along with the size, made it not the best thermometer for delicate foods, like salmon or filet mignon, where you don't have a lot of room or space to work with. So when the TempSpike Plus came out, and I saw some major design changes, not only in the diameter, but also the minimum distance, well, I just had to check it out. All Thermopro products come packaged really well, and when you remove the product out of its packaging, it's actually very attractive. I prefer the look of the TempSpike Plus versus the Twin TempSpike. Now, comparing the units side by side, they're actually quite similar, with the same magnetic base in the back that has strong magnets and is able to securely hold the unit. And you also get that USB-C charging port, so no need to buy external batteries. The probe itself still has an internal accuracy of 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit with 40 hours of battery life, which is really good. And the sensors still have the same range, so you're not sacrificing range or accuracy with the smaller size. Speaking of smaller size, let's take a look at the Twin TempSpike. You can see that there's a significant difference, with the TempSpike Plus coming in at a little bit over 4 inches in length. Now moving on to the app. I have to applaud Thermopro because it's very easy to pair the probe with the app. However, I still have the same gripes that I did when I first reviewed the Twin TempSpike. The app needs a lot of work. Although there's a lot of visuals that help you set up, there's not a lot of visuals in the actual monitoring itself. You just get this very basic display, and you can't even change presets. You can't select things in between without making a custom profile. So the app in general just needs that extra boost. It needs to be updated, and I'm a little disappointed to find out that not much has improved since my last review about 3-4 months ago. For example, when selecting fish, you are stuck with that single preset at 145 degrees Fahrenheit, unless you make your own custom profile. Also, you can't view graphs in real time, so I have no idea if the probe is disconnecting or not during the range test, because there's no graph to view. And likewise, it's a bit glitchy. When my cook was done, the fish cook, it was telling me that my steak was done. So let's do a range test. So one of the things that improves on the other models is you do get 100 extra feet of range. But of course, those are lab conditions. So what are you actually getting in practical terms with this very compact size? Okay, the range test was really impressive, and this may have the best Bluetooth range out of all the thermometers that I tested. I started off with an out-of-sight test, and this is a pretty hard test because I go around the corner, there's stuff in the way, multiple houses, a lot of interference.
the TempSpike Plus was getting 77 feet of range before it disconnected, and then it reconnected at only 73 feet. That's a big improvement over the Twin TempSpike, which lost connection at 65 feet and needed to get to 24 feet in order to reconnect. And line of sight was a huge improvement as well. The Twin TempSpike lost connection at 75 feet and needed to get all the way up to 18 feet in order to reconnect. But the TempSpike Plus, I actually exceeded my property limits. I had to go to my neighbor's house to continue to test. It lost connection at 91 feet and reconnected at only 78 feet.
So what are the pros and cons that I've noticed so far while testing out the TempSpike Plus and comparing it to the Twin TempSpike? Well, do you guys notice the difference?
Overall, this is a very impressive unit, and it has some significant updates in both size, range, and overall performance. But there's also a lot of similarities with the Twin TempSpike. So which one's right for you? It all depends on what are you trying to cook? What are you trying to achieve? If you're a barbecuer that primarily cooks brisket or other large items, then the Twin TempSpike may be the right unit for you because you get two probes and you don't really care about size or precision. Now, on the other hand, if you cook a lot of delicate items like salmon, filet mignon, and so forth, and you need to be very precise because you don't have a lot of room to work with, then the TempSpike Plus is the right thermometer for you. Now, they're both Bluetooth only units, so I would like to see that changed in the future. And it may be possible through a firmware update, but I think all new probes going forward should have Wi-Fi tethering for unlimited range, so that was a bit disappointing. But the Bluetooth connection was a big improvement, and I think for most users, it's more than enough. So it all depends on, are you the average home cook? Are you a home chef? Are you a home enthusiast or a weekend barbecuer? And figure out which product makes the most sense for you. And there's also a few other things I want to mention, but these are a little bit more subjective because it's stuff that I care about that you may not necessarily care about.
Yeah, besides not having two probes anymore, you're also missing the LCD readout screen. And that's something that I really, really loved about the Twin TempSpike. You really don't know what you're missing until you have one of these. And if you're like me and you have kids, everything nowadays has an app. And you have to choose between monitoring your kid or the food or the popcorn machine or the TV or whatever. So it's nice to have an LCD screen. That's missing here. This thing is tiny. I mean, look at that. I think this is the smallest probe now, both in length and diameter, and I think even the minimum distance you got to put it in. But I got to check that. I got to compare it to Combustion Inc.'s predictive thermometer because that one was really tiny as well. Of course, these are my initial first impressions, so I've only had it for about 2 weeks. That's not enough to figure out all the bugs and issues with it. But overall, right now, the TempSpike Plus is giving me the same first impressions that the Twin TempSpike gave me, which is it just works. It just does what it's supposed to do, and I haven't had any issues with it. But if I do, I'll let you guys know, and maybe I'll do an updated review on all the Thermopro products. That's it for me, guys. I hope you found this video informative, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody.